friends, so I'm gonna start painting now. So right now, I'm gonna start on that. What did I say I was gonna do? Okay, I'm gonna start on some of the surrounding colors, which are here, and see if right now that this is still the underpainting, but it's a little too gold for what I think should be. So I'm gonna see if I can look at this and then try to balance that out for a while. And then I'm gonna go here to, okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. So there are certain things here that I like better still, but I'm not too far off. Right here, I'm gonna start balancing those colors a little bit better here and here and here. And then I'm gonna go to the face, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun here in this head today. I wanna make sure that those colors, those orangey colors are gonna be working. Okay? And then later on, maybe toward the end, I'll see if I can show you how, even though I did highlights here, white highlights, there's actually some gold. You see this nice gold sparkles? I painted them white because I plan to put golds over this later. Look at that. Like I'm gonna make that, this I'm gonna turn into a little gold, just with the little glazes. So transparent, glaze is transparent, right? Transparent yellow, basically. I'm gonna put over that. I'm not gonna worry about this. I'm gonna just sit down probably the entire day working on this later. I don't think I'm ready for that. Okay, so here I go. And friends, feel free to ask questions as needed as we go. But I'm gonna at least be 20 minutes painting. So if you can hold off your questions to 20 minutes, that would be great. I'll try to do a little recording too. So friends, I went to IKEA the other day, my wife, and I found this little bottle that's nice. It's a nice little bottle that I can just rinse my brushes in. Really nice. And I got this one, the same one for my turpenoid. So I'm happy with that little addition. So my brushes have been sitting in the turpenoid for a little bit because I had a very busy weekend. So it's okay, now I can just rinse it in the lavender brush cleaner. I got my rags nearby. Old rags. Everybody's doing a good job. But if you all feel that, you know, that face really needs to look good. So as you go, maybe, you know, dedicate a little bit of time to do a return visit on that face and get those expression right, details, the eye distance, the eyebrow shape, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm noticing there's a lot of grayish tones in the original painting. I think I'm going to add a little bit of a touch of stand oil in that background, stand oil, because it, like I said, this is thick like honey, and I kind of like that viscosity, so that I could add it to just be able to tap the paint that I'm going to scumble on top. I'm going to add it to the Venetian varnish medium. So it's going to be kind of like a 50-50 mix. Okay, so here we go. Look at that, it's restoring the brilliancy because it was dry. You see what's happening? So it's bringing out colors again just by boiling out. And now it shows me what the real colors are. Remember I said that in oils, it tends to get flat. I don't have to do the whole thing because I know that it's all darker up there. And I'm not going to work in those areas right now. I'm pretty convinced that's right. But these areas I need to balance out better around there. Even here. Well, it looks very bright from this angle. Notice it's not that bright. Glare, I hate glare. But it's a lot darker than it appears on the camera. Yeah, this looks more from a distance. Okay, so I need some warms. I mean, some cools. I mean, it's amazing. The glare is so bad. This is really super dark. That's one of the things that the digital artists are happy about. You know, They don't have to deal with these things as oil painters do. But it's okay. There's a lot of nice things about oil that they don't have to. Glare is always a challenge. Okay, so I think I got this. I'm gonna be cooling some stuff down here. Okay, the colors I plan to use. Okay, so right now I'm starting with just straight black and white. I'm going to put on this palette here. Here's a little point. See this gray palette I have here? So this is a mid-tone gray. The fact that I can put a gray over it like this and notice it a little darker, that's good because it helps me with my values. Even my palette that I have, the glass palette right in front of my easel, has a little bit of a grayish base that will help me to to judge my values. Okay. Zoom in here. Actually, the more I look at it, it has some browns there too. So it's probably not going to be just black and white, but with some burnt umber or something like that. So I'm going to put that here too. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, looks good. I definitely need to throw in some burned umber in there. And even darker. And actually, I'm not just putting the color in, I'm actually trying to see what strokes these strokes of Rembrandt are here. Okay. Maybe even the raw sienna still should be there. That's the nice thing about these replica projects, because you're not sure what he did until you start trying it. Okay, so I see that's way too cool. And I'm trying to be careful not to eliminate those interesting reddish undertones that are there that you can see right through.
So Ed, do you mind just refreshing my memory as to what colors you're using right now?
Yeah, right now I started off with a grayish mix of black and white. But I decided that I wanted to, it was too cold. It was too cold, so I decided to go back to some raw sienna and also some burnt umber. So right now it's a lot of raw sienna and burnt umber with a little bit of the black and white gray mix. And I'm trying my best to see areas where it's a little bit darker, and trying to be careful not to not cover the underpainting, you know, because the underpainting is goldish, and there are definite areas where you want that to show through. Okay, like that. Like I gotta lift this up. It was too dark. I mean, too. It's too opaque, so I'm gonna lift some up. Actually looks good when you wipe it off like that. So it's cooling it down. And if it is too cool, guess what? You could always go back and do glazes and warm it up again. I'm liking that. I'm gonna do that around here too. So remember the saying, every stroke is a drawing stroke. We never forget about drawing, even when you're painting. So right now, for example, there's this little corner area. I know it's too hard to see it. Let me get a little closer with this. I'm trying to capture these little darker, warm areas. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna too as a possible color to dip into as needed. you oil out like this, it's so nice to control the paint. And I'm applying the paint very thinly. Just kind of lightly going over, staining these areas because I think the modeling is there. It just needs shifting colors. I'm trying to get those colors better balanced here with the warm and cool level. Better. Ooh. Way too cool. You know what? I'm gonna experiment with something now that I see how blue that looks when I do black and white. I'm gonna see what happens if I do raw umber and white. I mean burnt sienna. I mean burnt umber and white. That's what happens. Okay, it's just an experiment. So. Instead of black and white, let me do burnt umber and white. Seems to work better for those cool areas in the back here. Yeah, just it's a nice combination of, right now, friends, I think I'm figuring this out. I'm using raw burnt umber, white, and a little bit of burnt sienna. And it's just a little touch of white, not much white, as I get into the deeper dark areas in the top. We have to put this right on. I noticed that in this shadow area behind his head, there's like a reddish glow right around the shadow of his head, which is very interesting. So again, warm and cool, warm and cool. In this area of the cave, I noticed that there is some scumbling going on where it's cooler. Try to get that down. So you want to shift between warm and cool, which would be black would be more cool. Warms would be more like burnt umber or even burnt sienna or raw sienna. those could be kind of going in and out in your mixtures of darkness here. Okay, I'm gonna try to get some of these garlic here. We'll work about 10 more minutes and I'm gonna get on that head. I want you all to see the head, how I'm working on the skin tones. I'll work on this area a little bit. I'm darkening this a little bit more. That's better. One art teacher told his students, all you need to really learn about painting is warm and cool. That's pretty overly simplified, but it is true. That's a big part of it, is when you actually are working with colors. You know, when it's warm and when it's cool, and how to shift between warm and cool tones. And there's a color that is called Rose Doré, which is very nice. It's a transparent pink, pinkish color. Rose Doré. And I really like it. I really like how it works with, here it is. Rose, it's all squirrel. Rose Doré, D-O-R-E. That's nice if you need to go with pinkish areas, which I happen to see in this high-res picture. Maybe put a little bit of it. Little kind of like, looks like a candy gum. Yeah, Rose Doré. And of all the colors out there, it's the one that holds its pinkish tones when you add light to it more than any other color. So that's interesting, I think. Put it here on the palette so you can see it too. It's kind of like a transparent magenta. So let's see how that looks in these areas that I find a little bit more pink. It's like a nice little. At least that's what I see on my screen, a little bit of pinkish tone there.
I'm finding working with these paint colors and mixing them is a lot like making a really delicious dish out of your head. And then you try to repeat it and you can't remember what you put in it.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because Alan Boyle, you know what he used to do? He had a little notebook. You know, just the way you would write down things for recipes. He kept a little notebook of little things that he would learn and experiment with and try out. And I think that's a nice idea. But yeah, what I just did with the rose doré really helped this little corner area. I know you guys can't appreciate it, but because it's so light. Let me take off the lights, maybe you can see it better here. In this area here, I added a little bit of a pinker tone. Right in there. Anyways, you have to trust me because the camera is limited here. I want to put that over this whole area actually. Now that I like it. So right now I'm doing a scumble, which is a combination of a color which is transparent with some opacity to it. So basically the transparent pink, white, and a touch of that grayish color. Mistake. There's a mistake here, but I can wipe it off.
Ed, I have a question. When we put oil, when we oil something out and then we add our glaze color, I'm noticing it kind of beads up. Is that because I have it too heavy?
What are you using for a glaze?
You said the raw sienna and
No,
the
what medium are you using for a glaze?
oh, the Italian varnish.
Yeah, maybe it is too thick. Because it shouldn't beat up at all.
Okay.
Just a thin film. That's all you need. A very thin film.
Okay.
To go over a certain area.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so I think I am pretty happy with, at least so far, before I start tweaking it some more, with this relationship of warm and cool on the side. I hate the way the camera is so bright, but here it is. Okay, I'm gonna work on the skin tone strengths. I think this is probably the biggest change to what you've been seeing. Want to get that skin tone looking right. So here it goes. I think I'm going to take advantage of the computer to see what it recommends. And then based on what I know about mixing colors, let me show you all what I'm going to do. Okay, so we're gonna work on that head now.
Ed, if you're explaining to us, you're muted.
I don't know how that happened, but thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to get the skin tones now. So skin tones, it could be a variety of ways, but definitely I would say maybe to see what's on the screen there, it's kind of an orangey color, right? I think try Naples yellow. By the way, this is a rose doré. It's a nice color if you want some pinks. Winsor Newton.
What would be another equivalent to that?
Well, it would probably be like alizarin crimson, but applied very, very lightly.
Okay.
I guess rose doré is more like a specialized color, you know. It's not an absolute necessary color, but it's nice to have it, in my opinion. Okay, so we're gonna try this and see what happens.
What colors are you using, Ed? You're using the rose doré or a little bit?
Actually, I'm using a little bit of just Naples yellow and cadmium scarlet and white, and see how that goes, just to start. Try that again. That's pretty bright. Not bad though. I mean, I can cool it down some. Okay, it's not bad.
So that was Naples yellow, white, and the rose.
No, I'm not using rose on this. I'm using Naples yellow, white, and cadmium scarlet. Because you need a little bit of red in it too. And that's where the scarlet comes in.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
Are you oiling up the head area, Ed?
Yes, everything is oiled up.
So cadmium red or alizarin crimson, would one of those do for the cadmium scarlet?
Not really, but I mean, it might work. But alizarin crimson is more for other things, like shadow, especially for shadows, shadow reds, you know. But cad scarlet is a nice basic skin tone color, especially for something so highly saturated like what we see in that forehead area. That's pretty high level of saturation is pretty good, you know. Just important. Okay, now I'm kind of just guessing because I noticed that, you know, that Rembrandt probably never even had cadmium scarlet, and he had more something called vermilion. Vermilion exists, but it's very expensive. So cadmium scarlet is a pretty decent equivalent. Okay, I'm going to work on these areas. It's like a transition area of the skin, where it's the shadow going into light gradually. You see how that goes? So like this. Right now, I'm just kind of getting the colors in there. But later on, I'm going to have to get those strokes in there really nice. You know, the right level of opacity. Oh yeah, it's coming along, coming along. I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to get as close as possible. I'm going to get that forehead here. And I'm applying those strokes kind of at a diagonal with a kind of a small brush. And here, I notice Rembrandt has a little bit more intensity of color in this area, right there. Right in the brows here. Oh yeah, it's coming along. So basically what we're doing is, you want to keep it simple, is we're just adding reds to we already have golds there, right? And because of the underpainting. But now we're doing little reddish tones into it, which is important for the skin tones. Okay, so I'm going to go into the little rosy areas of his cheek, of Jeremiah's cheek, and work on that. And even his nose. Look at that, just with a little bit of thinness, a very thin paint. It's already having a skin tone show up, right? Because the underpainting is there.
Ed, what brush are you using right now?
Just a small brush like this. It's this one is a number 2 cat's tongue, I think, or it's kind of a little bit of a flat, but with a pointiness to it.
Okay, thanks.
Is that also known as a filbert?
Yeah, yeah. No, well, cat's tongue is kind of on its own,
Okay.
but it's similar to a filbert. But I could already see that in this head, I'm gonna be probably needing the very small, tiny brushes too. I'm gonna try to make this area glow a little bit more. So I have to add white and Naples yellow and all that. More light. I gotta squint my eyes to get that form to go good, you know? Squint, squint, squint. This whole area is important transition right there. So if you notice, I've already added a highlight in the middle. So that highlight is important to me because that's the highest point. So it's been established. I might tone it down later, but right now I can see that that is the highest bright. Yeah, it's actually too bright still, but I'll work with that. I think I'm going to pull out some of my very small brushes now. Right now, this is pretty much pure Naples yellow straight. It needs a little bit of white though. And I'm going with diagonal strokes like Rembrandt did. Now it's basically going from orangey midtones to yellowish highlights, like goldish highlights. Which means that in the highest highlights, I mean, the highest lighter is kind of Naples yellow and white. Hey. Now, remember we talked about edges. So in the hair area of the skin, since you know it's kind of balding, there's areas where that skin tone shows through. So now is the time to put it in. Little transparent strokes like that. There, see. Okay, let me get to the. This is a nice orangey transition. This is called the halftone, where it's in between. Here's a nice thing to remember, friends. When you have you got property of light, you got property of shadow, and you got somewhere in between. It's called halftone, and that's technically the property of light, but it's like kind of in between. And that halftone is very colorful usually. So right now I'm going to get a little bit of Indian red and put that into that halftone and see what happens. It's coming across, kind of bright. It's a little vein here.
Is that kind of like, at dusk, the lights seem, or the colors seem more intense at dusk? Is it that half property of light and half of shadow that causes that?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe that's happening in a large scale in the sky. I don't know. Never thought of it that way. Nice observation, though. Okay, so I'm gonna add more warmth in here. Okay, so here it's a little bit more. I know that as it reaches the left of his head here, it's getting very bright. So I'm going to try to bring that intensity of color. Remember, if you're driving, you have those three directions: hue, value, and intensity, right? So right now, the only way to really tell, it's like driving, you know, like steering left and right. Like really, sometimes it's good to push the intensity in an area, lay it down and see how other things compare to it. So right now, I'm gonna go into that skin, the eyes, that little bag socket that he has underneath his eye, that little bag is pretty warm in comparison to the lower part of the cheek area. So I'm gonna put a little bit of that color in there. Put the warmth right there. Notice that. The lid is comparatively cool. The cheek that is near the nose is warm, very warm. The tip of the nose is, well, let me put a little transition color like that. And it's kind of nice to see how a good underpainting helps in this process. I'm going to go with some burnt sienna right now and Venetian red into that cheek area, a little bit lower. Intensifying that color just a bit, maybe it's a little too intense. And remember, every stroke is what? A drawing stroke. So when you put color, you're always drawing. Okay, even in this fingers.
So Ed, you said you're using burnt sienna along with the red?
And just in the deeper, darker areas as it gets dark. But in the general area, I'm not using burnt sienna there. Just in these deeper areas around the you know, near the cheek at the bottom, near the nose, where it's a little bit more concentrated. There in those areas in the shadow.
Okay.
So basically, we gotta remember that there is the light, the dark, and the halftones, right? In the lights, I'm using Naples yellow, cadmium scarlet, and white. That's in the lightest parts.
How about the halftones?
Halftones, so far the same, but you can probably throw in a little extra reds, you know, like kind of like maybe a burnt sienna if necessary. I'm just kind of experimenting with this and taking a look. Okay, so right now I see that cheek blue color, the cheek that is on the other side, with near the shadow where the hand is. I'm going to put a little bit more intensity of color there. I'm going to use cadmium's Naples yellow. I'm going to put a little bit of a nice little white touch right there, a small brush. And there's a nice little wrinkly area that I want to capture. So this is a dab. Oh, I was happy with that. It's a little tiny brush. This is about a number one brush. I just captured that little wrinkle there, and I'm going to try to get another wrinkle right there. Oh, there. I think I got it. Okay, now that I saw that, it's working pretty good. Now I need to just shift that, and I'm actually doing some drawing in that area. So that cheek slides a little bit closer to the nose. So I'm actually kind of repositioning some of this. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with this overall, but I still trying to balance those colors out even more. So
It looks really good, Ed.
thank you. Thank you so much, Ruth. So now I'm going to bring out more lights here. Okay, and I think I'm going to bring some more golds in the arm. So let's see how this looks around here.
Looks like he used that thick paint on his forehead. So after you establish like the undertone colors, are you going to go back over with the thick paint for more texture?
I think so, and that's going to need some highlights here and there as we go. So, and right now I'm going to go to the beard and bring out the actual color of the highlights a little bit more. So it's a little bit, so actually I'm toning it down compared to my underpainting because it has more value. I mean, in other words, it's a little bit lower in value than what it is right now on the underpainting. So I'm actually shifting the values down a little bit and see how that goes. I'm gonna put a little bit of that grayish touch in the hair. It's not there right now, but I think it's gonna really help. And it's, even though it's not perfect, I want to show you all in a minute before we say goodbye what I've been doing so far. Look. So now I'm adding the grayish touches around the hair. And I'm using black and white and Ross, black and white and Ross sienna. So let's see how that looks. Remember, I told one of you all about the edges in the beard as you go. There's a nice opportunity to throw some values. Okay, so let me back up and show you all what I did today. I think what I'll do, I'll send a picture of on the WhatsApp a little bit better, because this is not as clear as I would like for it to be. Okay. In fact, let me take a picture of it and send it to the WhatsApp if you all want to check your WhatsApp right now. Let me take a picture of it. Okay. Wow, time flies, huh? Okay, friends, so this is kind of what I got right now, but I'm still going to work on it some more. If you want to check your WhatsApps. So already beginning to explore some of the skin tone colors right now. And before we say goodbye, maybe I can just show you how you can glaze the garment area a little bit. So right now, it's going to be pretty fun to do this. Okay, so I'm going to use transparent orange, which is very similar to anything transparent that is an orange or a gold or something like that would work. Like Indian yellow, transparent orange. I happen to have that one. There's anyway, it should be very transparent, because there's oil paints that you can buy transparent and some opaque. So here is a transparent tiny little glaze. For glazing, it's a nice idea to use sable brushes, you know. And so let me get that Venetian medium. Okay, so here is an example of a glaze. So what's this area? So this area has white on it, right? But I'm going to glaze down and watch what happens. I don't know if the camera can get those things right. Working on this area here. So look at these. So now it's just tinted down, right? So it's that white, there was a white, now it's a gold. See that? See that? So now this is a nice little gold pattern right here.
Do you use the same technique on the vessels, the golden vessels?
Yeah, even though this is pretty silver to me, but yeah, in that area where the cup that is inside, that's pretty gold. So yeah. Okay, look at this. This is very, now it's kind of just gliding right on. Look at these nice little golden highlights. And it's pretty, you can do it very quick too. Don't put any white into it because that'll mess it up. Look at this nice gold right there, right there. Look at this one here. Right here, I'm gonna turn that white into a gold, watch. You know how that looks? Right into here. Nice little. So that was an example of a glaze, and now I can go, once that's dry, take a wipe some off and it's still on it. Nice, right? And as it gets into these areas, towards the corner, a bit more here. Right up here, I'm gonna put some more, watch. This is a nice one that is going to turn nice and gold. Whole area and this too. So glazing, beautiful technique from the old masters. You can use it even in this modern time. Look at that, glaze, glaze. Look at this edge. It's going to make that little edge sparkle with gold, just by.
So Ed, you didn't dilute it with anything, you just used it straight?
Well, with a medium, remember? Remember I said that you should do it with a Venetian varnish, I mean, medium. So yeah. Because the medium helps it to dry fast anyway, see?
Okay.
There are a few of Rembrandt's highlights that almost look like he left them straight white, you know? So maybe I'll be selective, but a lot of them are toned down to a gold, you know? Right here. It's very nice, beautiful.
What was your base colors for some of your details on the red garment there? Like before you put the glaze on?
You right here?
Yeah, well down there.
I think that was basically burnt sienna and
White.
a bit of black, a little bit of maybe a touch of white, Naples yellow, kind of play around with them. I don't remember right now. Okay, now this is fun. This little passage right here.
So your gold is glaze, medium, plus yellow?
There is no such thing as gold medium. So,
Well, I mean, the gold that you're putting on there, you're using a glaze medium, yeah.
yes.
But I missed what you mixed it with, what color you mixed it with.
No color, just I used a color called transparent orange. But I'm saying that you can also use Indian yellow, anything that is a transparent yellow. If you get a regular yellow like cadmium yellow, that's opaque. So you need to purchase a transparent yellow. But those are unique colors, and they're part of my painting supply list. So once you got that, just go straight. You don't mix it with anything, but you use a medium. And that medium is a glazing medium. It could be liquid. It could be the same one that I've been using throughout, which has been the Venetian Italian varnish oil painting medium. It could really be any medium. Any medium. It could be cobalt, you know, which is I like this one, copal painting medium. It could be anyone. It could even be linseed oil if you want. But you need a medium to make it go, you know.
Ed, question about the opaque or translucency. Is that also called light fastness?
I'm not sure what light fastness is.
Okay, I was looking at a couple tubes that I have. I've got Hansa yellow and Indian yellow.
Indian yellow is the one for transparent.
Light fastness is how long it will last after 200 years, whether the color will have faded away or whether it'll still be the true color. And if you look at a tube, there's either a square or sometimes a triangle, and you can tell whether it's transparent or translucent or solid, opaque, by on the tube before you buy any paint. If it's colored in, usually that means that it is opaque. If it's half colored in, it's not as opaque, and if it's just a sort of a clear square, this is true with Winsor Newton and with some of the other brands. If it's a clear square, then it's an indicator that it's a transparent paint.
Thank you. You answered my question.
Thank you.
No problem.
I can see that now. On the cadmium lemon, like Ed said, it's we got the little square there.
Is it colored in?
Yeah, and it's colored in. And then on the Indian yellow, it's open.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's open like that, that means that the paint's transparent, and that's really helpful when if you go to the paint store. You know, if you go to an art supply store and you're looking around, it's a really helpful way to get an idea of what you're buying.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so friends, I'm also doing a little bit of glazing of black in certain areas while I'm at it, since I finished my gold. So look at that, I'm just using straight black with the same medium, and I'm just going in and I'm gonna just get all this is got refinement stuff that you can kind of do it at the end if you want to, but while I'm at it, it's kind of fun to hit a few darks. So right now I can reestablish, but it's probably a good idea to just let that gold dry before you go into that way. You don't manipulate anything, you don't change anything. It all happens in stages, layers. Okay, friends, so we're gonna end it here today, and so I got so far, so it's beginning to take a little bit more of the shape. I know it's kind of subtle, but typically in a painting, you do want to take your time as it starts getting toward the end to do fine tuning, you know. So this is what I see. And I'm going to keep working on those skin tones today. Throughout the day, I'm going to be looking at how Rembrandt would, now that I got to kind of the general skin tones, now I'm going to go back here and really study what's happening. Oops. I'm going to really study what's happening here, even with the creases, and then see if I can keep that little, you know, creases and details. I might even need to do the X-Acto knife here and there and get that real nice textures that he had in the forehead. And I'm going to try to control the values so that this is not too dark, because this is very pale back. I don't want to put dark eyes because that's not what I see. If you want to make this look like this particular Rembrandt painting, then we got to respect the values and drawing and tones and colors and textures, everything just like what we're looking at. All right, friends. So I see some points on the chat. Would you please give some instruction on the area you use the X-Acto knife on the green?
You already did that.
Okay. Okay, well, all right, friends.
Thank you, Ed.
Oh,
Thank you very much for all your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you.